Well, there's no doubt that the pressure is mounting right now on Jed Hoyer for the Cubs to win and to win now. And he's actually voiced that. So we'll talk about the interview with Bob Nightengale where he admitted that. Cubs weigh in on Alex Bregman, but not going to go crazy, according to Bruce Levine. And what is the most intriguing battle this spring training? Could be that fifth starter job. I know a lot of you go on third base. Yeah, but right now it's not much of a battle. That fifth starter spot, though, pretty interesting. But one guy's hurt, and that could give the other guy the advantage. We're going to get into all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you guys for being here. Let's talk some Cubs baseball. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel, where we talk Cubs baseball on the daily, probably better. All right. Thank you for being here. And let's get right into it. The headline today could have been Bregman, but I feel like the headline to me is Jed Hoyer saying it feels like there's increased pressure, because there is. And we've been saying it on here, and this isn't a knock on Jed. It's just the way that this works. If he doesn't do it now, he will never run an organization again. So there's a lot of pressure, okay? And that's just the way it is. He was Theo's assistant, went to San Diego, came back and was Theo's assistant again. So he was assistant in Boston, then went out to San Diego, didn't have a ton of success there, and then came to the Cubs, helped win a World Series, and now he's the guy. And since he's been the guy, and it wasn't like Theo left him a full house, as far as cards go. I mean, he had a lot of bad stuff to do, getting rid of players that were beloved and won a World Series. But with that said, things haven't taken shape the way that ownership would want, because the team hasn't won. So it's now or never for Jed Hoyer. And he tells Bob Nightengale of USA Today that. Bob's a great reporter. And I know there's a lot of pressure on Jed, and we'll see how he handles it. I think that it's, I honestly, I'm glad he said it. I mean, we know that this is the last year of his contract. He didn't get extended. So you wonder what the threshold is for him to get extended and have more of a shot, to get more years. There's a lot of 1-year deals with this team right now. Kyle Tucker, one of those guys, Ryan Presley, one of those guys. And, Tucker, supposedly the best player on the team, right? He's one of the best players on the planet. What's going to happen next year? It doesn't matter. What matters is winning right now. And maybe if you win and you win big, you got the money to go out and pay Tucker, and your front office, your ownership feels, good and trusts, because I guarantee Dansby Swanson having a bad year is going to hurt his chances. If Dansby Swanson comes back and has a good year, I think that helps him a lot too, because that Dansby Swanson contract, I'm sure, looms large when you're paying a guy $177 million to bat eighth. And he needs to be the best player on the team, or one of them, right? Talking about the best player on the team. Let's talk about a guy that's not on the team yet, but Alex Bregman. And the Cubs are, from reports, still in there. Bruce Levine told 670 to Score that the Cubs are way in on Bregman, but they're not going to go 6 or 7 years. He's already over 30 years old. I mean, you're not going to pay this guy that much. Scott Boras is his agent. Bruce loves some Scott Boras. That's always funny when Bruce talks about Scott Boras. I feel like they're best friends. But you know what? He's known him a long time. He's a former, I think, like Cub minor leaguer, right? And he's maybe the best agent of all times. It hasn't been as easy lately with these contracts, just because of the business of baseball. But the Cubs are going to have to work hard to get Bregman. But it really feels like, and I've gone through these scenarios many times, there just feels like the fit is with the Cubs. Now, you're going to take an opportunity away from young Matt Shaw. How's that going to help or hurt the Cubs with Shaw, someone that they really need to step up and deliver just because of all of these minor league prospects. Pete Crow Armstrong really is the only guy that has stepped up and kind of been a big leaguer, and you got him in center field. So I don't know what's going to happen with Shaw. Maybe you trade Nico Horner to a team like the Yankees or something if you end up signing Bregman to make room for Shaw, or do you just keep Nico and say, hey, you know what, rookies, you're going to have to work your way in on this. We're not giving you anything. This is a veteran game, and we need those guys, and then you just break in where you can. That could be the case too. The Iowa team should have a pretty stacked lineup this year, at least at the beginning of the season. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win or lose. Just means that there'll be a lot of pieces that the Cubs can draw on if they have injuries. Now, something else interesting about Bregman is that Jameson Taillon was asked about the situation with Bregman and now playing with two of his former teammates, talking about Ryan Presley and obviously Kyle Tucker. And he said, and it was great. Sometimes you go in the clubhouse and you interview these guys and you're trying hard to get them to say something, and they're really good at not saying anything. You get little sound bites. They're not real big interviews, but sometimes you get some gold. And this one to me was gold. He said, I don't know about recruiting, but those guys speak very highly of him. And I have definitely heard them communicate that out loud. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes as far as recruiting. Obviously, he's an incredible player. I think just getting these guys from Houston, that team went on a crazy run for a lot of years. And a guy like Ryan Presley has played in very big moments. So is Alex Bregman. So is Kyle Tucker. And I think that it's pretty cool to add to this room just winners and people who expect to win. And again, that goes back to voicing expectations. These guys want to win. And obviously, Bregman's been a big part of that too. Okay, look, man, saying that they're voicing that, they know him. So they obviously know his business. And they're probably saying, look, dude, come be part of the Cubs, because it is the Cubs. It's not Houston. It's not Toronto. It's the Cubs. Getting to come and play at Wrigley Field, to be a part of the city of Chicago, where baseball is a big deal. Yeah. Can you imagine running out there on the field, the bricks and ivy every day? So I'm sure the recruiting pitch is there, as they kind of move on here. But I thought that was interesting too, because you're not saying that if you don't believe that, obviously that you have a chance. And then finally, let's talk about the fifth starter battle, right? And it's Colin Ray, who the Cubs signed in the offseason, and Javier Assad, okay? And this is really interesting, because what's happened is the Cubs have gone out and they've added a lot of pieces. Now, not all of them are Kyle Tucker type pieces where they're like, a bona fide superstar. But saying that, when you add competition and it gets tougher to get on the field, it also obviously adds some depth. So who's not going to get it? They're going to go with a 6-man rotation, which I don't think that they will, right? But the battle between Colin Ray and Javier Assad is really interesting to me. And I think both guys had, very decent, good seasons last year, including Assad. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that Colin Ray has the early advantage, and that's because of Javier Assad's mild oblique strain. When you start dealing with injuries, it's sometimes tough to get past those injuries during spring training. And remember, the Cubs have to have a roster ready to go to Japan. So maybe Assad's not even ready for Japan. I know, look, man, they've got 2 games and then more spring training, so you don't need 5 starters, and he'd be the 5th guy, right? But just the fact that we're already talking about him dealing with MRIs, and Jordan Bastion of MLB basically said mild strain left oblique in his tweet. You you're talking about a guy that's already dealing with issues. But I love Assad, 27 years old, 3.40 ERA in his big league career. And he's been pretty split, 47 starts, and then 23 times he's pitched out of the bullpen since his big league debut in 2022. He's a guy who I don't feel like has ever been thought of as a kind of as a star. I feel like even when he came up through the system, they didn't think of him as a prospect, but he just earns respect. He goes out there and gives you innings. But it felt like last year he dealt with, some injuries that definitely kept him from going deep into games, right? So Colin Ray and him battling it out. You got some of the young guys, Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown, Kate Hortner. Those guys going to go in there and fight for this fifth starter spot. Yeah, I mean, they certainly could. But Javier Assad, to me, if he's healthy, is he's right there in that mix to get that job. So we'll see how this thing breaks out. But it's a good problem to have when you're the Cubs and you have one of your guys that you expect to be part of this part of this staff. And he's got an oblique strain, and you're going, okay, well, you know what? I got a lot of other answers right there. And last year, Assad was 7-6 with a 3.73 ERA. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one shapes out. And if the Cubs sign Bregman, third base is his. If they don't, then third base could be another one of those great spring training battles that we keep an eye on as well. But thank you guys for being here on the channel today. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. We will do it again tomorrow unless something breaks, unless Bregman signs, unless something happens here that we feel like we need to jump on for. But we're getting closer and closer to Shota Imanaga in Japan, opening night against Yamamoto and Otani, and give us Seiya. It's going to be a great game. I'm guessing that's what the rotation is going to be. But anyway, thanks for being here, guys. And again, get in the comments section. Tell me what you think. And go Cubs. We'll do it again tomorrow.